Welcome to Wealth Trans Podcast. I'm your host, Julius Hammond. I'm here with another fire guest, a legendary guest. But before I reveal who he is, I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell because we have a lot of guests coming up, influencers, activists, just businessmen and women, people who's going to give you a lot of value and a lot of content. So I need you to hit all three, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for future episodes, okay? Now, my guest that's on today, okay, he is a American R&B jazz player, former American R&B jazz player. I think he still plays, but he's also have a famous documentary where a black man, went and infiltrated the KKK and actually got a lot of the KKK Klans members to denounce their membership. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Wealth Trans Podcast, Mr. Daryl Davis. How you doing, Mr. Davis?
Hey, Julius, thank you very much for having me. I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Oh, man, I can't complain. Even if I could, it's not going to help, right?
I heard that.
Yes. So, Daryl, before we get started about, because I've done some research on you, and my father, we were talking about this before we started recording here. My father, he told me about you, and he said, you need to check out this guy when he was alive. My father passed away in 2016, but before that, I checked out the documentary, and I was like, this guy's crazy. He's over there with the Ku Klux Klan. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But before you talk about the documentary and what made you want to do that, can you give our subscribers and our viewers what your story is about, how you grew up, and things of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm age 65. I was born in Chicago, but I lived all over the world. I began traveling the world at the age of 3. Because my parents were U.S. State Department, U.S. Foreign Service. So I grew up as an American embassy kid. And how it works is you get assigned to a country for 2 years, and then you come back home here to the States. You're here for a few months, maybe a year, and then you get reassigned to another country abroad for 2 years. So back and forth, back and forth. My first exposure to school was overseas. I did kindergarten overseas. I did first grade, third grade, fifth grade, seventh grade, all in different countries. I lived in Africa for 10 years. I lived in Europe. I visited many countries in between. When you combine my childhood travels with my parents, combine that to my adulthood travels now as an adult, performing all over the world with my music and lecturing. When you combine those two sets of travels, I have been to 62 countries on 6 continents. And what does that mean? It means that I have been exposed to a multitude of skin colors, ethnicities, cultures, ideologies, religions, belief systems. All of that has helped impact who I have become. And I can tell you something, Julius, no matter how far I go from our own country, the United States, whether it's right next door to Canada, or right next door to Mexico, or halfway around the globe, no matter how different people may be who I may meet. Maybe they don't look like me. Maybe they don't speak my language or worship as I do. Mm-hmm. I always conclude one thing, and that is that we all are human beings. And as such, no matter how far, how near that person may be, every human being wants these 5 core values in their lives. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to be respected. We all want to be heard. We all want to be treated fairly and truthfully. And we all want the same things for our family as anybody else wants for their family. And if we can learn to apply those 5 core values whenever we find ourselves in an adversarial situation, regardless if it's about race, about abortion, about politics, religion, whatever, it doesn't matter. When we find ourselves in an adversarial situation or a society or a culture in which we are uncomfortable or unfamiliar, and we apply those 5 core values, I will guarantee you that your navigation of that situation, that culture, that society will be much more positive and much more smooth. So, if you want to go back to my childhood for a second, because this is very important. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look, if we can, at my second grade class. There's my second grade class. That was overseas in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, 1965, 66. All right. What do
Okay.
you see there? I'm standing there in the back row.
Yes.
I'm the second kid from the right. Okay, that's me. I'm an American. In the second row, the second boy from the left, the glasses on, he's an American. In the first row, the first little girl to the right, she's an American. So this is second grade, all right?
Okay.
We three are the only Americans in that picture. There are more in the school, but I'm talking about second grade. Everybody else in that picture is from a different country. And look at the two teachers. You see a black teacher and a white teacher.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1965, 66. You would never see that in our country in the 1960s.
No.
A black teacher and a white teacher in the same school, in the same class. No, not happening. Okay? So that, that was my scenario overseas. And so that, because that was my first exposure to school, that became what my baseline for school should be. But every time I would come back home here to my own country, I would either be in all black schools or black and white schools, meaning the still segregated or the newly integrated. And there was not the amount of diversity in my classroom back here in my own country that I had overseas or that we have today. Today, you walk into any city classroom, people are from all over and mixed, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But not back in the 1960s, all right? It was just black kids or white kids or black and white kids if it was newly integrated. So one of the times when I came back home, I was age 10, 1968. And I was one of two black kids in the entire school. Myself in fourth grade, and there was a little black girl in second grade. So consequently, all of my friends were white. They were fourth and fifth graders. The only time I ever saw the little black girl was at lunchtime in the cafeteria or at recess outside. Let me show you my fourth grade picture and tell me if you can pick me out.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, you in the back.
That's it. Exactly. Now you see those guys standing in my row with me. Those are my friends.
Okay.
My fellow fourth graders. Now some of those guys were Cub Scouts, and this is 1968.
Okay.
They invited me to join the Cub Scouts, so I joined the Cub Scouts, and I was the only black scout anywhere in the area. And one day we had a parade, and the streets were blocked off. The sidewalks were lined with nothing but white people waving and cheering, smiling, having a good time. And it was, the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, Brownies, other organizations. And everything was going along fine until we got to a certain point in this parade route when suddenly, pow, I'm getting hit with our bottles and soda pop cans and just small debris from the street by a small group of white spectators off to my right on the sidewalk. It wasn't, a whole bunch of people throwing things, just maybe 4 or 5 people mixed in with the larger crowd. Only these 4 or 5 were throwing things. And I remember there being a couple kids, I didn't know them, and a couple of adults who were throwing these things and yelling and screaming. And because I never had this precedent before, my first thought was when I turned to see who was hitting me, my first thought was, oh, these people over here, they don't like the Scouts. That's how naive I was. I didn't realize that I was the only Scout getting hit until my Scout leaders all came running, and they huddled over me with their own bodies to shield me and quickly escorted me out of the danger. That I realized I'm the only person getting this protection. Wow. And so I'm trying to figure out, what did I do? I didn't do anything. Why are they doing this? I had no idea. And I kept asking my leaders, why are they doing this? And all they would do is shush me and rush me and tell me to keep moving. Everything's going to be okay. So they never answered the question. At the end of the parade, I went home. I still didn't know why this had happened. And my mother and father, who were not at the parade, they're getting me all cleaned up, putting alcohol and Band-Aids on me and asking me how did I trip and fall down and get all scraped up. I told them I didn't fall down. I told them exactly what happened to me. For the first time in my life, my mother and father sat me down and explained to me what racism was.
Mm.
Now, you may find this hard to believe, but at the age of 10, I had never heard the word racism.
Mm.
I had no clue what my parents were talking about. It was impossible for my 10-year-old brain to process the idea that someone who had never seen me before, who had never spoken to me, who knew absolutely nothing about me, would want to hurt me for no other reason than the color of my skin. It made no sense. This is why I had to give you my background, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You saw my background. You saw people from all over the world.
Yeah.
They didn't treat me like that, okay? So I could not fathom the idea that just because of my skin color, because the people who were doing this to me did not look any different to me than my friends at my school here, right? The ones you saw in the back row, the scouts, all right? Or my friends overseas, whether they were my little American friends from the embassy, or my little French or German or Swedish or Danish or Australian friends. They didn't behave like that, and they looked exactly the same as the people on the sidewalk doing that. So what my parents were telling me was wrong, and I refused to believe that somebody would hurt me for no other reason than the color of my skin. It made no sense to me. Well, guess what? We're talking 1968, all right? That was the year Martin Luther King was assassinated, and I quickly learned that this phenomenon that my parents called racism did in fact exist. So now I believed it. I saw what was happening. But what I did not understand, so I accepted the existence of racism at the age of 10. But what I did not understand was why. Why are people racist? What makes them that way? And so at the age of 10, I formed a question in my mind, which was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? Mm-hmm. And I've been on that journey to find out the answer to that question for the last 55 years, because I was age 10 then and I'm age 65 now. And that's the journey that led me to the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazis and other white supremacists in their organizations, or just the basic and run-of-the-mill racists next door who doesn't belong to any organization.
Wow, that's powerful. I did not know that story. That story was amazing for you. And again, you showed those pictures, and for that to happen at 10 years old, and you're like, well, hold on, these are my friends, and these are people, these are my peers. Why am I getting treated this way?
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I viewed them as my peers.
Yeah.
We didn't see color. Race never came up. We all were. Listen. Sometimes we didn't speak the same language. Sometimes we didn't worship the same way, or look alike. But we all got along. We played together, went to school together, had slumber parties. Race never entered the picture until I came home. You understand?
Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, I use this analogy. This is the perfect analogy for what you just from your story. When you have a black kid and a white kid or whatever, Armenian, doesn't matter what the color of the kid is or ethnic background, right? When you have kids playing with each other, all they care about is the toy or hug. You'll see a black kid and a white kid hug each other, and it's no big deal. That's why when people say, no, you're not born racist, you're taught that crap. It's the parents and everybody else who trickle that down to the younger generation and feed that foolishness to them. Then they become like
I could not agree with you more. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So
it's when adults get involved that the problems start, right?
Yes, exactly. Their feelings or how they feel toward a certain ethnic group or whatever, then they teach that to their kids, and then it's a generational curse. It perpetuates that nonsense.
Right.
So let's pivot. Let's move forward. So okay, I got the background from your age 10. When all that happened. So now, you're a little bit older now. So what made you really want to go on? I know you said you've been doing it for 55 plus years, but what age did you say, you know what, I want to take the conscious decision and try to infiltrate the KKK? Like what? I mean, what was going through your mind during that time to say, I want to try to go into that organization or that association and try to see what they see and why they believe the way they believe. What made you want to do that? And then with the documentary as well.
Okay, so let's fast forward from age 10.
Okay.
So, I kept going overseas. I'd be over there for 2 years in some different country, come back home. Every time I come home, some crazy incident would happen that involved race, right? And then I'd go back overseas to what I call normalcy, where people were normal, right? And then I'd come back home and some other crazy stuff would happen. All right, so now fast forward, I graduate high school. I go to Howard University in Washington, D.C. I get my degree in music. I graduate with my degree in music performance. I become a professional musician. All right, so along the way, after I graduated, country music had, R&B, disco, top 40, all that kind of stuff, had replaced country music on the top of the charts. But a movie came out with John Travolta called Urban Cowboy. And it was a very, very popular movie with lots of country music in there, Mechanical Bull, all kinds of stuff. So a lot of the clubs and venues that played music, whether they were DJ, whether they were live band, they switched their format from top 40 to country. So country became popular again. It was back on the charts, top of the radio, all that kind of stuff. So as a full-time musician, if you want to continue working full-time in music, you got to play what's in demand. So I joined a country band. Country music is very easy to play. Let me tell you something. The blues and country music are kissing cousins. They both use the same 3 chords. It's society that divides us, not the music. It's society that divides and says, okay, well, if you're singing this song and you're white, then you're a country singer. If you're singing the same song and you're black, you're a blues singer. It's society that puts us in these categories, but the music is the same. All right. So anyway, I joined this country band. The band was pretty well established here in Maryland, which is where I live now. And they were all white. I was the first black guy and only black guy in the band. And usually a lot of the places where we performed, I was the only black guy in the venue. So they had performed at a place in a town called Frederick, Maryland. Frederick is about an hour and 20 minutes north of Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Now, the name of this venue, this club, bar, was called the Silver Dollar Lounge. And in Frederick, Maryland. The Silver Dollar Lounge had a reputation of being an all-white lounge. Black people were not welcome there. Now, there were no signs posted like, you've seen the signs of the colored water fountain, colored restroom, all that kind of stuff, whites only, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. It just had that unspoken reputation. So, if you go somewhere where alcohol is being served and you are not welcome, it can be, risky. So here I am in the Silver Dollar Lounge. I'm the only black person. I knew the reputation of the place. I'd never been in there before, but now the band has a gig there. I've just joined the band, a month or so ago. And here we are in the Silver Dollar Lounge. They played there many times. So we finish our first set of music. We take a break. I'm following the band to the band table, sit down, and I feel somebody approach me from behind and reach across my shoulder. Now, I don't know anybody in this joint, and I see the whole band in front of me, so I'm turning around trying to see, who's touching me. And it was a white guy, I'd say 15, 18, maybe even 20 years older than me. Big smile on his face. Yeah, he's all happy and stuff. And he says, man, I sure love your all's music. And I said, thank you, sir. And I shook his hand. And he pointed at the stage. And he says, man, I've seen this here band before, but I ain't never seen you before. Where did you come from? And I explained, well, yeah, you probably saw them because they told me they played here before. But this is my first time playing here. I just joined the band. He goes, well, man, I sure love your piano playing. This is the first time I ever heard a black man play piano like Jerry Lee Lewis. Now, I was not offended, but I was surprised that this guy, because he was at least a decade and a half, maybe even 2 decades older than me, that he did not know the black origin of Jerry Lee Lewis's piano style. And for maybe some of your young listeners out there who are not familiar with Jerry Lee Lewis, Jerry Lee Lewis was a great white rock and roll, rockabilly piano player. Came right out of Boogie Woogie. If you think about oldies but goodies, goodness gracious, great balls of fire, whole lot of shaking going on. Those songs from the 1950s. That's Jerry Lee Lewis rocking that piano. And that style came from black blues and boogie woogie. So I was surprised that this guy did not know that. And I quickly told him that Jerry Lee got that style from the same place I did, from black blues and boogie woogie piano players. Well, he didn't believe that either. He didn't believe Jerry Lee got anything from black people. I said, look, man, I know Jerry Lee Lewis. He's a friend of mine. He's told me himself where his influences came from. He didn't believe that I knew Jerry Lee. But he was fascinated with me and wanted me to come back to his table and let him buy me a drink. Now, I don't drink alcohol, but I went back to his table with him. And I ordered a cranberry juice. He paid the waitress. He took his glass and he clinked my glass and cheered me. And then he says, you know, this is the first time I ever sat down and had a drink with a black man. And now I'm completely mystified.
Yeah.
I'm baffled. Like, how can this be?
Yeah. What's your angle? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how can it even be possible? At that point in my life, I had sat down with thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of white people or anybody else and had a meal, a conversation, a beverage. How is it that this guy that much older than me had never sat down with a black person before? So innocently, I said, why? And he didn't answer me at first. He looked down at the tabletop. And I asked him again. His buddy elbowed him and said, tell him. I said, tell me. He looked back at me just as plain as day. And he says, I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. I burst out laughing because I didn't believe him. I know a lot about the Klan. And they don't just come up and put their arm around some black guy and want to hang out and buy him a drink and have conversation. It doesn't work that way.
No, they don't.
So, this guy's joking with me, right? I'm laughing, going along with the joke. He goes inside his pocket, pulls out his wallet, and hands me his Klan membership card. I look at this, I recognize it as being for real. I stop laughing. It's not funny anymore. I give it back to him. And now I'm wondering, why am I sitting at a table with a Klansman? But he was very friendly, very curious about me. And so, we talked about different things, the Klan and other things. But he gave me his phone number, and he wanted me to call him whenever I was to return to this bar, the Silver Dollar Lounge, with this band, because he wanted to bring his friends, meaning Klansmen and Klanswomen, to come see, as he put it, the black guy who plays like Jerry Lee. Now, I'm not sure if he called me a black guy to his friends or not, but that's how he explained it to me. And so I called him every 6 weeks. We got on a rotation with other bands. We were there every 6 weeks. And I'd call him on a Wednesday or Thursday and say, hey, man, we're going to be down to Silver Dollar. Come on out. He'd come both nights, Friday and Saturday. He'd bring Klansmen and Klanswomen. And they'd gather around near the stage, watch me play the piano with the band, get out on the dance floor, dance to our music. On the breaks, I'd make my way over to his table, say hello, thank him for coming. I'd meet some of the other Klan people there. Most of them were very curious about me. They wanted to meet me, talk to me, They couldn't understand how I played that Jerry Lee style, because they didn't know. And two of them, though, were not interested in meeting me at all. Every time they saw me coming towards the table on the break, they'd get up and move to the other side of the room. They'd walk away, and that was fine. So that went on until the end of that year, at which time I quit that band, and I went back to playing rock and roll and blues and whatever else was going on. So, I had no reason to stay in contact with the Klan, right? And then a few years later, it dawned on me, Daryl, you blew it. The answer to your question that's been plaguing you since the age of 10, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? The answer to that question fell right in your lap, and you didn't even realize it.
There you go.
Because I had tons of books on racism, anti-Semitism, white supremacy, black supremacy. I have all this stuff, and I've read it all. All my books talk about it, but they don't give me the reason why people believe like that. And when I would ask people about racism, they would say, oh, Daryl, some people are just like that. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an answer. I want to know why.
Yeah.
So anyway, it occurred to me a few years after I left that band that the answer fell right into my lap. Because who better to ask that question of how can you hate me when you don't even know me? Then someone who would go so far as to join an organization that has over 100-year history of practicing hating people
Yep.
who don't look like them, who don't believe as they believe. Get back in contact with that Klansman and get him to introduce you to the Klan leader from Maryland, and then get him to introduce you to the national Klan leader. Travel up north, go down south, go to the Midwest, go to the West, and interview different Klan leaders and members and write a book about it. Because no book had been written by a black author on the Ku Klux Klan from in-person, face-to-face interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Mine would become the first. So that's how that started.
Wow, that's amazing. That's wow. That's powerful. Jay, do me a favor. Throw up a few of the pictures that I was able to get from the internet. This might be the leader that Mr. Davis is talking. Now, not that picture, but that one. Now, is that the guy right there that was at the bar that sat down with you, or is that somebody else?
That's somebody else. And let me tell you about that guy.
Okay.
Okay. That guy's name is Frank Ancona.
Okay.
And he was the imperial wizard of the traditionalist Knights of the Ku Klux Klan.
Okay.
And that picture was taken back. That was about 8 years ago or so. And at the time, he had the largest Ku Klux Klan group in this country.
Okay.
Spread out all over the country. And that was taken in Missouri, which is where he was headquartered. He was later murdered. I knew him very well.
Wow.
I knew the murderer very well. I knew his whole family very well. I attended his funeral. I participated in that man's funeral.
Okay.
And as a result of that, several members ended up leaving the Klan. Okay. You know, they could not justify their hatred and their belief, their ideology after I participated in their leader's funeral.
Yeah.
I have some of their robes and hoods today.
So how did you?
Oh,
sure.
And guess what? As a result of that, I was invited by his successor to speak at some Klan rallies and meetings. One in South Dakota and one in Kentucky.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. How did you agree? Or how did you get them to agree, I should say? Let me reword the question. How did you get the Ku Klux Klan members to agree, rather all of them agreed or not, but the leaders to agree to not only sit down with them, speak at their rallies and at their, their town halls or wherever they were doing it at, but to also be filmed doing it? How did you agree? How did you get them to agree to that?
Well, you build a relationship.
Okay.
Okay. You have to build trust. And I gave you those 5 core values that everybody wants. And when you apply those 5 core values, regardless of what the situation is, if it's adversarial, it could be about race, it could be about gun control, abortion, the last presidential election, the upcoming presidential election. Mm-hmm. These are all hot topics. You're on one side, somebody else is on the complete opposite side. Mm-hmm. So, you think you're going to be like this. But if you apply those 5 core values, you can have a civil conversation. You start off this far apart, right? And when you talk to your worst enemy for 5 minutes, you find that you have something in common. Mm-hmm. And that gap between you closes. Mm-hmm. You talk for another 5 minutes, you find you have more in common. That gap closes even more. By the time you get right here, Julius, you are in a relationship with your adversary. Whether you like it or not, you are in a relationship with that person. And, you might not be going to his birthday party or, whatever, but you're having a cordial relationship. Mm-hmm. And you keep on talking, you may be still disagreeing, you keep on talking, and you find more in common. Now, you're in some kind of a friendship. You may not be agreeing on everything, but you're friendly with one another. By the time you get here, you have more in common than you do in contrast. And then they began thinking, the trivial things you have in contrast, like skin color, or whether you go to a church a synagogue, a mosque, or a temple begin to matter less and less. And then they begin wondering, why do I hate that person? That person is the same as I am. We like a lot of the same things, da 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 da. And they began questioning their own belief. Because as you pointed out moments ago, it is a learned behavior.
Yes.
They're not born that way. And what can be learned can be unlearned.
Yep.
It may take a little bit of time, but I am willing to put in the time. So I tell you what, when you've been treated bad for 400 years, and you keep doing the same thing over and over again, trying to fix it, and it's not working, it's time to change your approach.
Yeah.
And people call me a radical. They call me. I have my share of detractors who don't support what I do.
Of course.
Okay, we all have detractors. All right, and that's fine. But you know what? What I'm doing is working.
Yeah, like you said, you keep doing. That's the definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. But
exactly.
you got to change up your approach. You got to change the way you're doing things in order to get a different outcome. Did you ever?
And it does not involve kissing anybody's behind.
Sure.
Just sit down and have civil conversations, because you have something to teach them. You have something to learn from them. That's the beauty of humanity. We all have things that somebody else doesn't have. We can learn from them. They can learn from us. What is it? Teach me what it is about me that you fear, and I will teach you why you should not fear me.
Yes. And so maybe let me know if you agree with this, because my philosophy has been this. Racism doesn't exist, but people who are racist do. I think anything with ism behind it is like fascism, racism, all that is is made up by the world, by society, just to get people to fear mongering, or get them in a state of perpetual anger or whatever, right? Just to get black versus white, or left versus right wing, or whatever. It's all just to get each other to clash at each other. But you do have people who are raised to be racist or to have anger or whatever, because that's something they've always been taught. My question to you is also, when you were at these rallies and everything, did you ever fear for your life? Did you ever think in the back of your mind, because we all have a conscious and a subconscious mind, and in your back of your mind, did you ever think like, this could be a setup, like this, maybe all this is something they planned behind closed doors just to get me here, and then it's like, all right, well, now they can do something real, terrorist type style toward me? Did you ever have that in the back of your mind?
Yes, and that occurred to me.
Okay.
But I also have very good instincts. But yeah, of course, those things did occur to me. But and I have been in very dangerous situations where I've had to engage in physical violence and hurt people, put them in jail, put them in the hospital, for putting their hands on me and things like that. Few and far between, not everybody. Yeah. But when you go into that kind of situation, yes, there are people who will do that for no other reason than the color of your skin. That's the only reason they need to attack you, physically attack you. Okay. So yes, those things have occurred, and yes, they are in the back of my mind. But I have pretty good instincts. But yes, I do agree with you about the ism and the is.
Yeah.
And I put it another way. I say, I am not anti-racist. I am not against the person, the is.
Mm-hmm.
I am anti-racism. Okay, because that person, that is, the racist, was not born that way. They acquired that from somewhere. So I'm not against the person, because who knows where they got it from? Were they taught that as a child from their parents? Mm-hmm. Did they read the wrong book, go down the wrong rabbit hole? Whatever. All right. That has to be addressed, the ism. And because the is can change.
Absolutely. When you were at these rallies and you were actually talking to a lot of the Klans members, what were some of your talking points, knowing that? Because I'm pretty sure, and obviously you got the leader, and they gave the thumbs up for you to come there, and they probably talked to a few of their Klansmen, whether they agreed or not. You were there. Did you ever?
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Here's one from about 30 years ago.
Yes.
I think you showed that one a moment ago.
Yeah.
Okay. That's from about 30 years ago. This one here, is from almost 8 years ago.
Mm.
There were more Klan people there, but what happens is at the end of the rally, they go off to the side to a picnic table to eat hamburgers, hot dogs, have beverages. You always leave a few Klansmen guarding the burning cross
Yeah.
because it's going to fall over and then sparks are going to fly, and they don't want anything to catch on fire. So they're there to wait for the cross to fall and then put out the fire. So what I do at these events, I talk to people as you see me doing here.
Yes.
I'm having a conversation. Now, when the guy with the green cross on his mask, when I came on that rally ground, he threatened me.
Mm.
But for the last almost 8 years now, every Christmas he sends me a Christmas present.
Wow.
He's done. The guy that you see on the left, right there, that's the same guy you saw in the dark purple robe that you showed earlier.
Yeah.
The one who was murdered. That's him right there. That's the leader. So that's his rally.
Wow.
And whether some of the members agree or disagree with him letting me on the rally ground, they have to abide by whatever he says. The leader, it's a chain of command.
Mm.
So even if you don't like the decision, you have to abide by it.
Gotcha.
And there have been some people who have quit the Klan because their leader allowed me onto the rally ground or became friends with me.
Now let me ask you, during the picture that you show with the burning cross, what's the significance of that for all the listeners and the viewers and subscribers who do not know what exactly that means? What is the significance? Obviously, they're saying white power. I mean, we can see the videos where we've seen videos where back in Klansmen are talking about white power, F the black man or F other races, our race. We've seen all that, right? But what is the significance of burning the cross? What does that play in it?
Okay, so there are two occasions upon which they set the cross aflame, as they put it.
Okay.
One is called a cross lighting, and the other is called a cross burning.
Okay.
So let's talk about each of those.
Sure.
A cross burning is when they take a 5 or 10-foot cross that is wrapped in burlap, and the burlap has been soaked in what they refer to as Klan cologne, which is actually diesel fuel or kerosene. And they come in the middle of the night or whatever and stick it in your yard.
Mm-hmm.
That is called a cross burning. That is a threat. That is a warning. And it's your first and your only warning. What they're saying is, we know who you are, cease and desist, move out, or the next time we come, we mean business.
Get out of our
they might burn your house down,
or whatever. Yep.
Get out of our neighborhood, or we're going to destroy you.
I got you.
All right, that's a warning. Okay, that's called a cross burning. When they have a rally, then they light the ceremonial cross, which is like 10, 20, 30 feet high. And again, wrapped in burlap, soaked in the Klan cologne. And they make a big circle, the Klansmen and Klanswomen. They're all in their robes and hoods. And they make a big circle, and they all have these torches. And the torches are lit. And they march slowly clockwise around this cross. All right? And the cross is unlit, standing in the middle of the circle. And they walk around until one of the leaders, the Grand Dragon, the Imperial Wizard, whichever leader is there, one of them will say, "Klansmen, halt." And they all stop. Then he'll say, "Klansmen, face the cross." And they all turn inward. And they got their torches. And then he'll say, "For my God." And they all repeat, "For my God." And they bow. "For my country." They all repeat, "For my country." "For my clan, for my clan." White power, white power. Klansmen approach the cross. And they all close in to the base of the cross with their torches. And then he'll say, "Klansmen, light the cross." And they'll drop their torches at the base of the cross, and whoosh, that fire shoots up the kerosene, the Klan cologne, and that cross is aflame, like you saw me standing in front of that tall burning cross. That is called a cross lighting. Now, to answer your question, that's the differences between a cross burning and a cross lighting. Okay. One is a threat, one is ceremonial. So that, to answer your question, why are they burning the cross? Why are they putting fire on the cross? The Klan claims to be a Christian organization.
Wait,
so,
what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding you. No,
Wow.
no. I'm dead serious. Yeah.
Wow.
Dead serious. Okay. So there are two reasons why they use fire. One is because fire is they use it symbolically as a purifier. So, like the example one of them gave me was, did you ever get a splinter in your finger when you were a kid? I said, yeah. Did your mom ever take a needle and stick it in the flame and then dig it out? I said, yeah. He says, well, she was purifying the tip of the needle before she punctured your skin so you wouldn't get infected. Okay, so we use fire as a purifier, and it symbolizes the purity of the white race. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, he says, because we are a Christian organization, we are lighting the way for Jesus Christ. And I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I said, but you have a different Jesus Christ than I do. He says, no, Daryl, there's only one Jesus Christ. I said, no, there are two. He says, no, there's one. I said, no, there are two. He goes, well, what, is your Jesus Christ black or something? I said, no. I said, he's not black. I said, but he's not white either. I said, I have been to the area in which Jesus Christ walked. I've been to Damascus, Syria. And I said, Jesus Christ appeared as one of those people. And everybody that I saw there was olive complected. And so I believe that Jesus Christ was olive complected, if anything. But I can tell you this, I've been around the world. And anywhere I go, where there's Christianity, whether it's Ethiopia, whether it's whatever, their pictures of Jesus Christ reflect them. You know, in this country, Jesus Christ is a white guy with brown hair or blonde hair and blue eyes. In Ethiopia, he's a black guy, you know? So it reflects them because the Bible says God created what? Man in his own image. Right. Okay, so the guy says, okay, well, what's your point? I said, well, my point is you have a different Jesus Christ than I do. He goes, how do you figure? I said, well, you just told me. You said you like that big cross in a cross-lighting ceremony because you are lighting the way for Jesus Christ. He goes, that's right. If you were a Christian, you know he's coming back. I said, I am a Christian, and I know he's coming back, but you just proved my point. He said, how do you figure? I said, because there are two Jesus Christ. You have to light the way for your Jesus Christ. My Jesus Christ lights the way for me.
Us. There you go.
Who are you? Who are you to light the way for Jesus Christ?
I love that.
I said, the Bible says Jesus Christ is the light.
Yes.
So he got very, very quiet. He didn't say anything. You know, but I could tell his wheels were spinning because he never heard that argument before, right? And then he changed the subject. But Julius, within 5 months, this guy quit the Klan based on that conversation.
Wow.
And today I own his robe and hood based on that conversation.
Wow. Amazing. That's an amazing story, Daryl.
Because they put up some false narrative, some false propaganda, and then they surround you with an echo chamber that just keeps repeating it, repeating it, repeating it.
Yep.
And then you believe it because you've heard it so many times. Like, for example, you know, you're a lot younger than I am, but do you remember, do you recall the phrase, beam me up, Scotty?
Yes.
And where did that come from?
Oh, shoot. It wasn't a cartoon, but I think it had something to do with, did it have something to do with like a rocket or something? I can't
Yeah.
Yeah, it has something to do with a rocket, but.
Okay, well, people always attribute that to the original Star Trek series.
Yeah, Star Trek. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? That phrase was never used. There was a guy in there named Scotty, and he did the beaming of people up. But the phrase "beam me up, Scotty" was never used. Captain Kirk, who was played by William Shatner, would say, "Mr. Scott, beam us up," or something like that. He never said "beam me up, Scotty" in all those years. But people would say that, and it just became lore. It became, you know, something accepted. Just like there's a movie, people they always attribute the phrase "play it again, Sam." Play it again, Sam, to the movie Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart. He never said that in the movie. He said, "Sam, play that song again."
You see how the media just switches up things and who said, I can't remember who said it. I don't know if it was Jag or Hoover or somebody said if you tell a lie long enough, that lie will be believed to be true.
Exactly.
So. Okay.
Well, guess what? We're seeing that right now with our last president, right?
Thank you. Exactly. We won't even talk about we won't even talk about this establishment and him. But so okay, another question. when you were okay, so because back then it was a lot of, like you said, you had the colored water and versus the white water, or you couldn't go into certain bathrooms or go to certain places, or
Right.
else you were risking your life at that point, right? But
Right.
you also had the Black Panthers, who got
Mm-hmm.
formulated at some point, and then you also obviously you have the KKK Klans members. Did you
Totally different though.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you ever, even to this day, but did you ever get any slack from the Black Panthers? Like, why are you even integrating or integrating and interacting with the Klansmen? Do you have anybody from
No.
there? Okay.
Understand the Black Panthers from back in the day. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been on some panels with some of them.
Sure.
Bobby Seals. The Black Panthers back in the day were a group put together to promote Black youth. There were
Yes.
even white people who helped them out.
Yeah.
All right, the original Black Panthers, not to be confused with the new Black Panther Party of today.
Yeah.
Okay, which leans more towards Black supremacists.
Mm-hmm.
The original Black Panther Party were not Black supremacists. They were self-determined. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We work together as a community. We don't go around killing one another.
Mm-hmm.
All that kind of stuff. And they worked with white people who believed in that system. Okay.
Okay.
They were not racist. They believed in in community, helping one another, self-supporting, self-determination. Unlike the party today that has appropriated the same name,
Mm-hmm.
but a whole different ideology.
Yeah. Yeah. You can go ahead.
No, I did not catch flack from the original people. There are some of today, some Black nationalists and Black this, that, and the other supremacists rather, who do give me flack. Sure.
Would it be from like BLM and all them? Because to me that's a money grab. To be honest with you, it's not about.
Okay,
yeah.
well let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
BLM, Black Lives Matter, was not founded to be an organization, a centralized organization.
Mm-hmm.
The founders of BLM had a great idea. They wanted to put, what they did was they co-opted the idea of Martin Luther King
Mm-hmm.
to put the national spotlight on a problem
Yes.
in order to resolve it. Okay? Martin Luther King did that when he organized the bus boycott with Rosa Parks.
Mm-hmm.
Rosa Parks was not the first Black woman to refuse to give up her seat on the bus. That kind of thing had been going on for a long time,
Yeah.
but it did not make national news. It only made news in Montgomery, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Dr. King saw the problem. He said, you know what? We got to put the national spotlight on this so everybody in our country sees what's going on, and that may force them to change their policy.
Yeah.
And he was right. He did that through the boycott. It made national news, and the Montgomery, Alabama bus lines changed their policy. And guess what? As a result of the Montgomery, Alabama bus lines changing their seating policy, all the other southern states fell into place because they figured, we'll be next. Dr. King will be coming here. So they went ahead and changed their policy too.
Okay.
So Dr. King was right. That national pressure did it. So that's what the founders of Black Lives Matter want to do. They took that idea and they wanted to put the national spotlight on the plight of Black men who, for lack of a better word, were being murdered by white police officers for holding their wallet,
Mm-hmm.
for holding their cell phone, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was happening all the time. It wasn't making the national news. So in the wake of the Trayvon Martin murder by that guy, George Zimmerman, that's when Black Lives Matter was created. However, the mistake that I believe they made was they did not want to trademark the name Black Lives Matter. They didn't want to own the name. They wanted it to be organic. They did not want to centralize, like the NAACP is centralized, the Boy Scouts of America, the Red Cross. These are central organizations that have one president, one headquarters, and they have chapters all around the country.
Yeah.
So the Brooklyn, New York chapter of the Boy Scouts or the NAACP or the Red Cross operates the exact same way as the chapter of the NAACP, Boy Scouts, or Red Cross in Ontario, California.
Yeah.
Okay, it's all the same. But when you don't centralize and you have everything organic, then you've got about 96 different chapters. They're not even called chapters; they're called factions.
Mm-hmm.
Factions, because there's no organization. You've got 96 different factions all over the country of Black Lives Matter. Each one has its own little leader. Each one has different policies. Yeah. Right? This one is going to be more aggressive. They're going to go around and spray paint BLM all over the place, rip down statues.
Ignorance.
Other ones want to go right. Other ones want to go to the city hall and sit down with the city council and draw up legislation to change names of buildings or take down statues, get a bill passed. You know, that way. But what happens is the media does not differentiate. They don't say the Ontario chapter of Black Lives Matter did this and the San Diego chapter did that. They just say Black Lives Matter did. Mm-hmm. So if Ontario did something, sat down with these legislators and tried to draw up some bills, tried to do things the right way, and the San Jose chapter, went around tearing up stuff in the city, the media is not going to differentiate. They're going to say Black Lives Matter tore up all this and tore up all that and spray painted this, that, and the other. So it paints a broad brush across the entire movement.
Yeah.
And see, that's what people don't understand. So when someone says, I want to donate to Black Lives Matter, well, where are you donating?
Yeah, who are you
There's
donating
no central
to?
headquarters. Exactly. So, if you donate to the NAACP national headquarters, it gets disseminated to the NAACP, all the chapters. Yeah. But where's the national headquarters of Black Lives Matter, right?
There you go. And then to further piggyback off what you're saying, this is all well documented, so I'm not making anything up, but you have like Marxists and people who are trained in certain areas that are their mind or their ideology is something different than what you just said. There's no central headquarters. It's all over the place. So if I wanted to donate to a Black Lives Matter back then, it's like, well, who am I donating to? But then the media will paint like, okay, well, you have these trained Marxists who are the leaders of Black Lives Matter, and then you find out that, and like I said, it's well documented. There's a video on YouTube by Candace Owens where she went to go to the lady's house, and the lady lied on camera. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is where we're at as a society, right? So we're trying to do something good to try to put light on, the police shootings and all the stuff that was happening, back then up to this point, right? But then you get people who are doing things unethically, and now the original cause of it is now being greatly diminished every day and every year because of people not really doing what's right by the movement.
Exactly. And again, it's a movement, not an organization.
Yeah.
So movements have factions, and each faction has its own little leader, where an organization has chapters, and each chapter adheres to the leadership of the headquarters.
There you go. Well, we got 10 minutes left, but I want to ask you right now, because you say you're still doing activism right now. What's your main? Because you've done a lot up to this point, and thank you for everything that you've done here on Earth. I appreciate it. I like I said, I'm
not done yet, man.
There you go. No, I'm just saying. So you being the age that you are, what is your main focus now? Is it still just activism, still trying to bring awareness? Are you, because the way society is now, it's like who they're not really listening. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you get a few people who listen, like myself. I'm a listener, and I try to do the best that I can. Hear the podcast where I bring awareness to others, bringing people like you on and others who like, hey guys, we got people who are really trying to be out there trying to help our people and help people in general, right? They don't see color. They see, the spirit and the character of the man, or of the woman. However, society now, the way everything is like this ABC here or this organization here, or we're a society of total chaos. Let's just be honest. We're not what God really wanted. It's like we're living in Revelation right now. We can agree with that. Right. So what is your goal right now are you still just trying to bring awareness and the few people that are listening? Hey, those are the ones. Or what's your goal right now as far as KKK, as far as activism? What are you actively doing right now to keep bringing awareness to the media and to society?
Doing podcasts like yours, giving lectures, educating people about what's happening in our country. And one thing that the media does not talk about so much is this. I learned this, believe it or not. I learned this back in 1982. All right. Let me back up a little bit. Okay. Our country was built on a two-tier society with white supremacy at the top and slavery at the bottom. And as we progress through the decades, we progress like this. Okay. Perhaps like this, but never like this.
Never equal. Yeah.
Never equal. Okay. When you and I were kids, and I know you're a lot younger than me, but it doesn't matter because nothing's changed. When you and I were kids, the black population in this country was 12%. Native Americans, 1%. Hispanic, Latino Americans, almost 2%. Asia Pacifica Americans, almost 3%. Whites were around 86, 88%. Let me show you the U.S. Census. The U.S. Census is taken every decade, every 10 years.
Yeah.
And all you have, if you want to fact check me, all you have to do is go to uscensus.gov, and you can see every decade. Okay. So let me just show you this here. All right. 1950, white people were 89.3%.
Wow.
10 years later, they dropped down 1.88. Right. Let's move on down. 1990, they're at 80%. 2000, 77%. The last census was taken in 2020.
Yeah.
Right. You see it. White people are 59%.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is happening? This is happening.
Yep.
All right. It is well predicted in the year 2042. This is what I learned back in 1982. In the year 2042, for the first time, our country in 400 years will be 50-50. 50% white, 50% non-white. All right. And between 2045 and 2050, it's going to flip. And white people in this country will become the minority for the first time. Now, there are plenty of white people in this country who don't care. They say, hey, that doesn't bother me. That's evolution. No big deal. I can get along with that. But there's also a large slice of our population that does care.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I deal with. The Klan, the neo-Nazis, the Patriot Front, the Oath Keepers, the one percenters, so forth and so on. They're like, Daryl, I don't want my grandkids to be brown. They call it the browning of America or white genocide through miscegenation, through race mixing. They're very concerned about that. They're very concerned about immigration. But when they say immigration, they don't care about people here illegally from Canada or the UK or Eastern Europe.
Yep.
It's the people from South America, Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico, West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, places like that. Because if their kid were to marry somebody like that, their grandkid's going to be brown, right? If you look at this, here is an article from the Wall Street Journal, 2008.
Sure.
What's the headline? Whites to lose majority status in U.S. by 2042.
Wow.
Here's one from the New York Times, also 2008.
Minorities in the U.S. set to become majority by 2042. Yep.
Yeah, look it up. August 14th, 2008, New York Times.
Wow.
Okay. So they are very concerned about this happening. And that's why we're seeing such an uptick in racist activity. All right. When I first started this, Julius, decades ago, there was the Klan, neo-Nazis, and white power skinheads. Now you got the Klan, neo-Nazis, white power skinheads, 3%ers, the 1%ers, the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the Patriot Front, the Vanguard, the National Alliance, on and on and on and on. And they're all saying, come join us. We're going to take our country back.
Yep.
And people are running and joining these groups to take our country back. And what happens is these people are fearing that their identity is being erased. This country was discovered by white people. It was built by white people. White people wrote the Constitution. And now these people who don't look like us are coming in and squeezing us out of our own country. That's the mentality. And so they run and join these groups. But when the group fails to take the country back, some of these people get frustrated. And they say, you know what? If the Klan can't do it or the neo-Nazis can't do it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
And they walk into a black church in Charleston, South Carolina. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And murder 9 black worshipers doing Bible study. They go into the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and murder 11 Jewish people. Okay, doing their services. They go to the Walmart in El Paso, Texas, and murder 23 Hispanic people. They go to the Sikh Indian temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, and murder 6 Sikh Indians doing their religious service. Or the Buffalo grocery store. These people are called lone wolves because they're acting on their own. And as we get closer and closer to 2042, right, which is only 19 years from now,
it's not that far gone.
We're going to see more and more of these lone wolves because they are trying to stop this from happening. And they believe that they are patriots, that they are saving the country.
Yeah.
And they want what is called in the white supremacist terminology, the 2 words, they both mean the same thing. One word is Rahowa, Rahowa, Rahowa. And what that is the first 2 letters of these 3 words, racial holy war, Rahowa.
Oh, wow.
It means the race war. It means the race war. The other word for the race war is the boogaloo. So if you hear somebody talking about the boogaloo, they're not talking about the dance from the 1960s.
Yeah.
They're talking about the race war.
I got
All
you.
right? That's what they're looking for. And every time one of these lone wolves gets shot and killed by law enforcement or arrested, and law enforcement goes and raids their property, what do they find? They find a cache of automatic weapons that's being stockpiled for this race war. This is very, very serious, and this is why we need to be more proactive than reactive. We've been reactive for a long time. It wasn't until just a couple of years ago that we began using the term terrorist applied to these people. But, up until a couple of years ago, we reserved the term terrorist for people who looked to be of Middle Eastern descent.
Yeah.
And then but when we Americans were doing the same thing, we said, oh, well, this person has some mental health issues.
We classified it
It's
as
called terrorism.
else.
Thank you.
Exactly. We got one more minute, but it's funny that you mentioned all that because Dr. Umar Johnson, I had him in studio. I'm pretty sure you know who he is. He's all over the YouTube and all that stuff, but he's a Pan-Africanist, pro-black, all that, right? And he was telling me while he was in studio, he was saying the same thing, but he was also saying like that's why he doesn't condone or approve of a black man and a white woman like connecting together, having babies and all that, because he said by the year 2040, but I think he said 2050 or something around there. He said that it's their complexion and their race is greatly diminishing, and he mentioned the race war and everything. Check that video out when you get a chance on YouTube under on Wealth Champs. But Mr. Davis, thank you for your time. I'm very big on time, and I know I only had an hour right now because you have other things to do, but I really greatly appreciate you. I want to have you back on, man, and maybe we can talk about some other things, maybe next year, or see what your schedule's like or whatever. But thank you for joining the Wealth Champs Family Podcast, and thank you for being a part of our family, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
And now, where can everybody find you, just so, social medias and all that before you get out of here?
Yeah, DarylDavis.com. That's DARYL, only one R, DarylDavis.com. And they can find me at The Real Daryl Davis on Twitter and Instagram and all that, LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you, Daryl Davis. I appreciate you. Your story is powerful, impactful, and I hope somebody really got something out of it when they watched this episode back. And it's unique. I love it. Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Take good care.
All right, you too. All right, guys. Well, there it is. We had Mr. Daryl Davis a former, or actually current jazz player as well, but big back then. But he also was, part of the KKK. He helped denounce a lot of the members, and you heard his story from what happened when he was younger, all the way up to what's going on right now. So he gave you some good history on what certain things mean. When he joined the Klan, and what burning crosses is, what cross burning is, and all that. So watch the episode back. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. Let me say that again. Like the video, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel. I got way more fire guests coming up. So make sure you guys stay tuned. And you know what? Also, we got the merch. We got I got buy you a coffee, or buy a coffee right now. So make sure you guys support that way. And just keep this thing going, guys. So again, thank you for tuning in. We have Mr. Daryl Davis on. Great individual, man of God, and all he don't see color. All he see is through the eyes of God, man. Spirit and blood of Jesus. So, thank you guys. Appreciate you again. Thank you for watching the video. Like, subscribe, comment on the video. Appreciate you guys. Wealth Champs family. I love you. I love you. I love you. Love with the love of the Lord. We out. Peace.